Welcome to Voice Rising with Kara Johnstad. Enjoy weekly conversations with leading luminaries, pioneering visionaries, singers, poets, musicians, and sound healers as we explore the profound role our voice plays on the path to self-realization and global enlightenment. The internationally acclaimed singer, composer, author, healer, recording artist, voice expert, creator of Voice Your Essence, and founder of the School of Voice, Kara Johnstad uses her extraordinary spiritual gifts to empower others. Everything in this world vibrates. Everything has a frequency. A pioneer in the field of voice work and transformational songwriting. Her breakthrough methods are helping thousands of people worldwide fine-tune their body-mind-spirit system and unlock the energetic frequencies of limitless creativity, health, and abundance. Share your voice, ask your questions, join in the conversation. Receive life-changing, positive transformation and rise together to create a sound world. And here's your host, Kara Johnstad.
Hello, everybody. A very warm welcome. Today I have here Steve Farrell with me. Steve attained the pinnacle of success as a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, founding 2 high-tech firms. He then pivoted to lead Humanity's Team, a global nonprofit helping people everywhere awaken to our interconnectedness through platforms such as their new Humanity Stream Plus streaming service. And after contributing to the Gold Nautilus Award-winning book, Our Moment of Choice, Evolutionary Visions and Hope for the Future, Steve's new book, A New Universal Dream, details his journey from a young entrepreneur to a life of service to humanity. And it is exactly this vision that we are going to be delving deeper into today. So, Steve, I welcome you warmly to Voice Rising.
Kara, thanks so much for having me. And wow, I am looking forward to the next hour.
Woohoo! Exactly. Excellent. So, first of all, congratulations on your new book, right? It's sitting next to me. It's beautiful. And it talks about a new universal dream. That is the title. And, well, Steve, I think at this evolutionary moment, we need not only the dream, but we need these action steps to how can we create not only the dream, but bring it into reality, right? And your initiatives and your book, it lays out a plan. So with all your experience in conscious leadership, what do you believe we're being asked to do at this present moment in time?
Well, what I think we're being asked to do, this is really why I wrote the book, which is, as you know, it's a true story of me from age 12 to all the way to today, and the birth and growth of Humanity's Team, this nonprofit 501c3 that I get to be a part of with so many other beautiful people all over the world, including in Germany, where you are right now, Kara.
Yeah.
So the premise of the book, though, is it's really about what I would call the great migration to conscious living, which just like the whales here in the North America, you see them migrating south, and you see the Canadian geese migrating south. There's a great migration going on now, unreported mostly by the media, which is our migration from more of the old American dream, fame and fortune and power and all of these things are over, to conscious living. And the book gets into kind of my own adventure and discovery and treasure. And I think every generation, sets out after high school or college, we set out on our adventure, right? Or which takes us to our treasure. And the story I tell is that it was actually the old American dream that was my first stop on my journey. I absolutely was in the right place at the right time, landing in Silicon Valley and starting a couple of companies there out in Northern California. And just right time, right place. So our companies went to 75 million from 2 guys, used furniture, and a very inexpensive executive suite to $75 million companies, both of them, one in 10 years and one in 2 years. And that gave me entrance into the, kind of that whole wealth society there in Silicon Valley, and which is the private jet world and all of that. And Cara, what I found is that while it was spectacular, I didn't grow up that way. I grew up with a single mom, divorced mom, 6 brothers and sisters, little 1,200 square foot home. So it's pretty astonishing for me, really.
Mm-hmm.
But also astonishing in other ways of, wow, this is a real mirage here, because it's kind of like you win the jackpot and then you just sort of stand there pulling that lever again and again, because you want to get the growth and you want to, okay, you got to 75 million. Now we're going to go for 150 million. Then you go to 300 million. You just keep going, putting all of this pressure and priority on that, which puts pressure on all of your other relationships. And so as well, it's a very small group that are lifted up by that financial wealth. And of course, I was looking around at the world and saying, wow, is this really what I'm supposed to do? Or am I playing a kid's game? Right. And so I realized I was playing a kid's game. And so I did sell those things. I moved my family to Boulder, Colorado. I launched Humanities Team with Neil Donald Walsh, who's the author of the Conversations with God books 20 years ago, actually. And then through this journey and my own personal awakening, I found it. I finally found it. I found what our generation, I think, is finding when I talk about the great migration to conscious living, which is the real treasure of conscious living, that we can live from any place, any home, and any region on the planet where, and of course, Cara, you and I were talking about this before coming on the program, where we come into these higher vibration states, where we come into this elevated consciousness, where we see our connection with Source and each other. And then the greatest thing of all, at the center of this is pure love. Pure love.
Pure love.
That's what pure love. And we are an expression of that. And then we are living the delicious life. Yeah.
Albert Einstein said, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. So talk to us more about your understanding of quantum entanglement. When we're talking about pure love, love is connecting us. So what is this science behind unity consciousness? What is this thing that makes you so sure that it's all about oneness?
Oh my gosh. So the science is everywhere. I'm not going to bore people because I could go on for 3 hours on this topic. I promise not to do that. I will put everybody to sleep. But let me just share a little bit. So yes, Albert Einstein shared this very important quote that you just mentioned. No problem can be solved at the same level of consciousness that created it. Now, before that were the 2 other massive quotes 102 years ago, 1921. The greatest illusion in the world is the illusion of separation. Okay, and then right after that, deeper quote that he experiences himself as something separated from the rest, and optical delusion of his consciousness. And it says that our task must be to free ourselves from this prison for us that restricts us to our personal desires for a few persons near us. So our task must be to widen our circle of compassion, to embrace all living creatures in the whole of nature and its beauty. So if you want to know what Humanities Team is up to, read that quote from Albert Einstein. That is what we were up to. That there's an optical delusion. Of course, I grew up that way. Clearly, Cara, you're separate from me and I'm separate from everybody. And there's this, I think there may be a divine up in the clouds somewhere. I'm certainly separate from the earth, right? But then you do the homework, the research, and it's not just Albert Einstein. My God, Erwin Schrödinger, who won the Nobel Prize for Physics, 1933. Quantum physics thus reveals a basic oneness of the universe. Another quote of his: the total number of minds in the universe is one. In fact, consciousness is a singularity phasing within all beings. Max Planck, Nobel Prize for Physics. He's got his quote here. I won't read all of these. Right now, okay, if you get out,
another great German thinker, right? Another great. Germany was really a home to so many great physicists, right, and great thinkers.
Absolutely, yes, and of course now look at Nassim Haramein, who's moved back over there. I think he's in France, right outside of Switzerland, with the Resonance Science Foundation, and Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton and Lynn McTaggart. The IONS organization, all of these organizations that are And the Nobel Prize for Physics, last year. Entanglement. You mentioned this as you asked the question. Well, what is entanglement? I mean, just go look it up. Entanglement. You've got two things, completely different sides of the universe, no physical connection, deeply affecting each other. Okay, so this is the thing. See, everything is deeply interrelated, interconnected, and interdependent. Okay, here's the big one. Here's the jaw dropper. There is no such thing as the separated self. There is nothing. It's a fiction. Right. There's no such thing as a separated self. So, and again, Popular Mechanics right now on Apple News says this. You'll see this. They've been featuring an article for weeks. It's usually only a few days. It's that global consciousness. Oh my God, we're finding that we're actually connected to all of the universe. All of our energy goes out and is it's like an echo chamber. It never ends. What energy we put out into the universe. So, am I sure of this? Yes, I'm sure of it. You mentioned we also have a conscious streaming platform, Humanity Stream Plus, and I get to work with all the great mediums and all the great NDEers. I won't mention all their names, but you've heard these programs where we talk about the non-physical realm, the afterlife, and which most of us now are getting pretty good at being in touch with the afterlife ourselves. So this whole thing of separated self and death and, that we're just our physical bodies, this is a fiction. Okay. And yes, I know I lived my life with my ladder against that wall for most of my life too, where I thought, Newtonian, Darwinian, I'm Steve Farrell, I'm a body, Joe and Linda are my parents, and I'll be 5 feet under at the end of my life. I grew up the way everybody else did. But on this, my own conscious journey and in my own awakening, I came to see that, oh my God, I was just living in a fiction. There's no such thing as a separated self. And yes, this pure love thing, which is the basis for this whole oneness or this diversity and unity, we could even use the words divine presence or divinity. That's the thing. That's actually what our basis is. And so that's the work of Humanity's team, creating all these master classes and streaming platforms now in 75 translated languages to get all of these programs out in the world.
I like to say that divine starts where division ends.
Yeah.
It's like the same root of the word. And Lynn McTaggart, also Bruce Lipton, they've done so many great experiments, but I think if we just take a moment and just look at a raindrop and just realize that, from the stream to the cloud to our dinner table to the plant, it's all there. There is no, like you said, there is no separation. And that is, I think that is also why people are at times really struggling when they see injustice, because they feel it. If they're at all compassionate, they feel the pain in their own hearts and they don't know what to do. So one thing is that they can learn from your initiatives and platforms. What other things can people do when they're faced with the feeling of, I know that we are all deeply connected, and yet I don't understand why we keep on going into these war cycles, or why we can watch people starving to death, live streamed. Like, what can I do besides offering my prayers? What are your thoughts on that, Steve?
Yeah. So such an important question. First, let me just underscore a few things you just said, and then let me get to that, which is in the separated self, this is darkness, okay? And this is the media likes to frame the rugged individual, which is the separated self, right? And these things, and even the old fame and fortune and power over thing. This is the thing. Now, when we live in that world, and most of us grew up that way, so where we live in that world, that's darkness, right? There's no connection. Right. We're not warmed by the light of the divine there. We are living in darkness. Now, what does that mean? Okay, and notice, just if you will, kind of really hear what I'm saying here, because these are things I had to feel into and find myself to come into the understanding of them. It's that we live, it's very transactional when we live that way. So notice, even with your family members, and notice with your coworkers and neighbors and things, notice people looking at you with a very flat face, really just expecting something from you. You're a thing. You're a checked box. And then notice, if you notice that, then notice the pain that they're likely feeling where we're living transactionally like that. Notice your own pain where people are transactional with you. There's no divine presence connection at all. It's just you are just a face that they're looking at, and then look at the pain there back and forth as we live transactionally, which is what it is to live in this separated self space, which is a fiction. So now to get to your the answer to your question, as we educate ourselves, and there's education everywhere. Times has tons of, the magazine is education. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
This radio show, Humanities Team we're a nonprofit. Humanities Team with a Y.org. Okay, free programs everywhere that are education. Yes, there's a streaming platform, but there are tons of free programs with Greg Braden, S.M. Harriman, Lynn McTaggart, Bruce Lipton, all of these. Also the spiritualists, Neil Donald Walsh, Michael Beckwith, and these. So educate yourself. Then what we naturally do after we educate ourselves, where we really get our arms around conscious living, is we embody it. Then that's the best thing. That's the real deliciousness, where it's like we're talking about this oneness and diversity and unity and divinity. Wow, though. Wait until we step into the embodiment where we understand it's real. This becomes our truth. So it's our ultimate reality. So we're going to live into it. And then as we start living into it, wait and see how that feels. This is the conscious living thing I'm saying. That's the destination for our generation now. And then the third step is kind of what we're doing here, where we're engaging others and just sharing, just openly. We're not trying to convince anybody of anything. We're just simply sharing our truth. Now, here's the beautiful thing, coming back to that transactional thing, which is very painful. And incidentally, some people have said to me when I bring this up, they say, "Oh, well, I guess you're more sensitive now because you're on the conscious journey," and they want to see it that way. Have I just become more sensitive? I don't think so. Okay. I don't think that it's because I've become more sensitive. I think that our basis is really this oneness, diversity, and unity and pure love. I think that's our basis. And once we start clearing the dirt over our cover and open ourselves into that, we see and feel, what we understand, that, my God, why have I been living transactionally? This doesn't feel good. It's painful, actually. And now, here's the beautiful thing, though. Education, embody, and engage as we come over to conscious living. Wow, we heal that. We don't do that. I don't do the transactional thing, and it's even better than relational. Which in relationships sometimes one says, let's live more relationally, and yes, it's better than transactional, where at least we're connected eye to eye and so on. But that's not divine presence. Divine presence is bringing in that really deep love, that real connection, real listening, real gratefulness for these people and the earth, that is a part of us too, and that it has a soul. So we move all the way over to this divine presence place, and that's where the whole delicious life thing comes in.
It sounds very delicious. I think that is a perfect place to be. Yeah, one of the themes in your book, right, a new universal dream, where we're in that unconditional love, I guess that you could say it's an unconditional love space. It's a pure presence. Is also how we can find our voice in becoming conscious leaders. I mean, it has to do a lot with becoming clear with the power of word, and what is our message, and maybe what is our intent, and setting certain affirmations for our day. You share also with, having moments where you really had to ask you could say the inner voice or the divine presence or your guides, like, what path should I take, right? So what are your thoughts on finding our authentic voice out there when we're being faced with so many complex transactions and complex relationships, and we need to find our inner truth? What is your own experience as a leader in this field?
So for me, and honestly, I believe this is true for everybody, but I'm not going to say that necessarily. I just say this is how it happened for me, and I really honestly believe it happens for everybody, is once there was a moment there back in the 90s, I tell that story in my book, where I was in my townhouse in Marin County there in Northern California, and it was that moment where, okay, truth was on the table. I'd done my homework. I'd gone through my awakening experience, and I said, there's one of two realities, and I can't have a foot in both worlds. One is the truth. So I'm either the way I grew up, Joe and Linda's son, in a body. Steve Farrell is my body, and it will go 5 feet under at the end of my life, or my parents delivered me to the earth at the airport terminal. I came from source. I'm actually a son or daughter here, and listeners, of the Most High, and that's where I came from. And in which case, I have those same properties. I have everlasting life. I have unlimited potential. I have all of these things. And I decided, based on all of my own education, that it was a ladder. And once I stood on that new ground, once I made that decision, once this became my ultimate reality, all of those questions that you presented, which sound like they could be quite challenging, trying to figure out this versus that versus this versus that, those questions just like that, answered. I don't struggle with it. This is the divine is just bringing this straight to you. I don't try and think it out. It's not the logic center of my mind that's operating. It's the wisdom center of my soul. In my daily practice, I'm told, but I am guided, and you're not only given vision, you're given provision. So the people will show up, the resources, all the things that you need to fulfill that vision that you were called to, your soul's calling. All of that comes. There's no complexity for me. I don't believe there's complexity for anybody that embraces this path, that says, I'm not a separated self. It was a fiction. I just grew up that way. I didn't know better.
Yeah, there's a powerful story that you have in your book where you faced a health challenge and you had a tumor that had to be, or that you had surgically removed. And what I remember from the story, that you can share with us the story, is that you then were guided to ask an intuitive healer, maybe there's something else than just the physical of this tumor. Like, what is the energetics maybe behind this tumor? And that also connected you back to your, how did you just say this? It was beautiful. The wisdom of your soul, or your truth, your divine truth. So what happened there when you sought out somebody to where you could ask, like, why do I have this health issue currently?
Yeah, so that was such an important lesson, which I'm going to talk through that. And of course, that's what the book does. My sister got a bunch of brothers and sisters, and one of them said, Steve, you were kind to everybody in the book except for self. And I do tell them myself. I do tell them myself throughout the book. It's just an honest account is all, because I made a lot of mistakes. That was part of the reason for the book.
We're all journeying, right?
Yeah, journeying, and there's things that you're learning. So yes, that story was a big one, because what happened there is got a parotid tumor on my right side that was, I went to Stanford to have it removed, and they said, oh my God, only once a year does somebody come in with a parotid tumor that's this big. It was as big as a golf ball, deep inside of my skeleton, that needed to be removed. And then, as you mentioned, I sought out somebody that could bring some clarity to what happened, or intuitive healers. This woman's name was Christelle Nani, and Christelle and I had a session, and she said, okay, here's what happened, Steve. She says, like if you had a bottle of wine and you corked that bottle of wine, and then you put all this pressure inside the bottle until it's so much pressure that the cork just flies off. She says, that's what happened, okay? Your body, there was some truth, she said, that you were not sharing fully. And that created this tumor. Your body was just not going along, where there was some truth that you didn't share fully that you needed to share, which created this tumor. And now the tumor's removed. She said, now, for the rest of your life, if you don't want to have that tumor come back, which it can, it can become life-threatening. She said, Steve, I don't know what that truth was that you weren't sharing, but whatever it was, you need to share fully from now on so this doesn't come back. So, and of course, the truth was I was in Silicon Valley. I was in that elite, business club with even like the governor of California was in my chapter there. These people, and I was being as open as I could about this spiritual awakening that I was going through, but not as fully as I could have been. And that caused the tumor to come on. So from that day forward, yes, I'm just like with you right now. I'm not holding back anything. I'm sharing 100% my truth.
Yeah. Speaking your truth. Exactly. The power of word, right? The power of word. So we're going to take a very, very short break, Steve, for our sponsors and for everybody else out there. Stay tuned because we're going to have more enlightening conversations with Steve Farrell.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
With happy clients all over the world, Kara Johnstad knows that your voice is the missing link to more authenticity, abundance, creativity, and health. An internationally acclaimed voice expert, Kara's breakthrough methods have helped thousands of people successfully heal their voice wounds and extinguish the story of self-doubt and shyness forever. Join in group trainings, attend online sessions, schedule one-on-one time, and invite Kara to work with your organization and community. Get started today. Go to www.karajohnstad.com and receive a special guided meditation designed to fine-tune your inner voice and welcome you on the voice journey.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break
because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time
landing a job and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org, brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Voice Rising, where today we explore the new universal dream together with Steve Farrell and how together we can create this sound world. And just a quick note to let you know that you can listen to all of the Voice Rising shows and interviews on any of your favorite streaming sites. And while you're there, checking out the new shows and checking out this one, subscribe and share your voice with our community. Leave us a comment. And in return, I promise to bring you many, many more inspiring guests as we journey together towards a harmonious and vibrant world. So welcome back, Steve, to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Kara.
You're welcome. So you have this quote on the blog. Deepak Chopra said, Christ wasn't a Christian and Buddha wasn't a Buddhist. And Muhammad wasn't Muslim. These people were having the experience of unity consciousness and universal consciousness, and they spoke of it in words. So you are a author, and you are a conscious leader, leading a lot of meetings. You're also speaking at events. You're deeply involved in communication. Tell us a little bit more about the power of our word?
Oh, yes. Well, gosh, the power of our word. So, and of course, as we know, right, it's thought, word, and deed. Put those three together where they're in perfect alignment. So the things we're talking about, Cara, here, you know, this diversity and unity, oneness, divinity, perfect love, these things, where we create daily practices that are intentional, right? Intentional is like a rudder on a boat. So it just keeps us pointed in the direction that we want to go in all day long. And then in metaphysical is where we're actually seeing, feeling, touching, tasting that future that we're creating, right? Because we know that that's the way the world works, right? So Jesus, we brought in Jesus and Buddha and these things, and Jesus said, "It's done unto you as you believe," right? So, and then there's so many. Joe Dispenza now, this is his thing, right? He talks about creating in the quantum field. It's the same thing. So, yes, thought, word, and deed. Word, the thought is there in our daily practice. It's the thing that we walk around in all day. It's the place of connection that we're in. It's even what was described there, Deepak and Buddha and these quotes and things that you brought in, Cara. Now, word is just following thought. It's that we're putting into word. Okay, so now creation is taking another step. It's a more concrete step. Now we're really forming a true reality. Our word is now coming in, aligned perfectly with those thoughts. Boy, and then deed. Now then line up that deed where, okay, now I'm going to live this way. Now I'm going to express this way. I'll embody this way. And you watch as we do that day in and day out, where we keep these things right together, this ultimate reality, which is that there's no separated self, right? There's only this whole light of the divine, this spiritual universe, this which is a higher vibration universe. Part of this is setting our vibration very high. So, and this is where life brings in we hear these terms thrown around all the time of, oh my God, you know, the synchronicities I'm experiencing, the miracles that are happening in my life. Okay, this is coming straight out of word, out of thought, out of deed, where we line ourselves with our bigger self, which is the world around us, because again, separated self's just a fiction anyway. So where we align ourselves with that in thought, word, and deed, wow, watch the synchronicities and the miracles come.
Exactly. So what is the link between communication and community for you?
Well, communication is beautiful, because communication is what we have here, where we're just really sharing our truth from an open heart, and we're not there's no proselytizing. We don't. The last thing we want to do is try and convince anybody of anything. We're just sharing our truth, and that's what the communication is. Now, the community. Of course, I work with all of these beautiful people in humanities team all over the world, including, like I say, in Germany and all throughout Europe and throughout the world, actually. And in community, then we create a culture like what we're talking about. So a conscious culture, and that's a beautiful thing. Oh my God, where we see this whole divine presence in each other. We listen well. We thank each other for the contributions that are made. There are no sharp elbows. You don't have sharp elbows in a conscious culture. And again, I come from Silicon Valley, which is sort of the alpha male culture, where you got sharp elbows everywhere. You don't hear. I was bringing in earlier the transactional versus divine presence. Well, this is a culture that's divine presence. It is not transactional. We don't come in person or on Zoom where we're just looking at each other with that hollow face of, I need you to do, da, 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 da. No, we don't have any of that. That's not why we're here. We actually believe the invitation in life was not to live that way. It's to live the way that we're describing. Yes, and voice has a crucial role. And of course, you are a master in voice, Cara, right? And you were talking about how we come into high vibration and how we express that in voice and all these things. And that is a beautiful and important function.
Well, you also, or one senses this, when one reads the book, there's often moments where the community or where the team leaders are coming together from all over the world with different cultures and different ideas, also on where they want to take the vision of the community. And you're all distilling these thoughts, like you said, into 5 points or 10 points into a kind of vision statement, so that you have a clear line of, okay, where are we going to agree upon, our values or certain things, and to be able to, as you said, put it into action, right? And I find this really fascinating, because if our word or if we don't clearly express what we truly feel, and if it doesn't land upon listening ears in the community, then there are tensions that can arrive, and there are power struggles that can happen, right? And so the voice is just such a beautiful thing, because it has to do with our own relationship to ourselves, but also within this community, how can we share truthfully, and at the same time, how can we come to a consensus so that a body of people, which is more than one, and as you said, we're not separated, can really move in one direction. And to be able to grow that kind of movement is phenomenal. I mean, it really takes a lot of consciousness and love to get that harmony together.
It does, yeah, and it takes time, and of course you sharing that story there of Humanity's Team Unfolding with these leaders from all over the world, where we were gathering for our global council meetings, giving spiritual leadership awards to all these incredible people, Desmond Tutu, Mandela posthumously, right. Ken Wilber, all of these different people, Barbara Marx Hubbard, Michael Beckwith, all of these. So it takes time. And of course, in that book I share, it took us time to really come together, because at the basis of this conscious culture is trust, that where you really understand no small agendas here, right? It's the big agenda, our bigger self. It's this whole conscious living thing, supporting people in the conscious journey, where month after month, year after year, we come together and people see it's the same person showing up, that's authentic, that can be trusted, each of us. You get this far in, we're now going on year 21. Well, boy, let me tell you, you go 21 years doing this together, where you can see, you really know each other, or you're in this long. And this is not a career for any of us. This is a calling. We are called to this, just like in times. I'm sure you all are called to the beautiful work you're doing. And so where we are in this calling, and where we're trustworthy, and where we trust each other and so on, it's like a snowball rolling downhill. Watch and see by year 21 what you can do. Oh my goodness, it's unbelievable. Because we love each other, and also we're entirely virtual right now. I'm coming to you from our I could call it our headquarters in Boulder, Colorado. My son does social media for us, so he's the fairly large space. He's over on the other side of the space. There's nobody else here. My assistant is miles away. All of the leaders are located all over the planet. We don't have one location at all, but it's fine. It works fine, because with the level of trust we have, and connection and agreement on what we're doing, it's actually unbelievable what we get done. I consider us still a small company, where we've got about 40 of us working, on a pretty good basis every week, which coming from Silicon Valley, that's a very small organization. And yet what we can do is like, wow. And it's because everybody is so on fire. There's so much passion for the work that we're doing.
They're very aligned, right, with their purpose. I think that's what one senses. I mean, when you said that you were in a company, or that you founded the companies in Silicon Valley and grew within 2 years to, a multi-million-dollar business, I think somewhere in the book too, you were talking about, renting the rooms with your business partner, the two of you, and then suddenly there were like, I can't remember, 100 people or 200. Anybody who has hired people knows how stressful and difficult that can be, because it all has to come into, again, alignment, right? It's not just a resume. They need to fit from their personalities in the team, and you did an amazing job, Steve. I mean, I'm happy that you're now serving in a different way, but quite a challenge, I would say, from somebody who has actually also led companies. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
We're guided all of us, and you have to start somewhere. And as you mentioned, in the beginning, when I started that first company, just like you said, a little townhouse, I rented out my back bedroom. I didn't have any, I didn't come from wealth, Yeah. The way I would talk to friends, I said, look, I'm on a high wire right now, and there's no net underneath me. And I'm just trying to every day walk across this wire, to get to where there's enough revenue come in to cover expenses and things. And I shared, we almost closed the thing down after 6 months because we weren't on target we weren't on our revenue target. And so, yes, I started, and it was a little teeny, very inexpensive executive suite, just one other person. And then it did grow into a $75 million company and 175 people. And then the second company went to over 750 people in 2 years. So both of them are 75 million.
Exactly. It's probably very relaxing now to have an amazing team with 40 people that know what they're doing, and you can continue to have a little bit of time for prayer and meditation and good dinners somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
I can't imagine what your schedule looked like back then. I can't even imagine with that much growth so fast. Yeah.
Well, that's why I wrote the book, to tell that story. And as you know, boy, was there a lot of learning, because I was a middle kid growing up. Middle kids listen well. They don't necessarily talk a lot, and they definitely aren't on stage a lot. So there was a ton of growth here. And I just, I did what I'm inviting people to do here with you, Cara, which is just opening to that light of the divine and saying, hey, I'm part of you. I'm actually an emanation of the one, right? A son or a daughter. And where we open to that and really become warmed by that light of the divine, I'll call it, wow, watch how your life takes off.
Steve, you talked in your last blog that this is a Galileo moment. So you talked about it. Also in the 1600s we had it, and now it's happening again right now. So what should we focus on right now to create healthier lifestyles on Earth? Give us some practical tips.
Boy, I will. Thank you for bringing that in. So, and that is so important, this Galileo moment. It's the big thing in humanities team we're talking about and writing about. And so this is it. So I'm going to give you this short story. I was walking around my kitchen in my home maybe 6 months ago, and it just dropped into my head, as sometimes things do, Galileo moment. And it really hit me hard, 2 or 3 times. And I thought, what in the world does that mean? Galileo moment. What does that mean? So I went and Googled it to see what it meant. Well, wow. Once I learned, it was like, oh my God. Okay, so here it is. Galileo, this is a refresh on some history you probably know. He lived in the early 1600s in Italy. The telescope was invented by the Dutch. He created his own telescope, looked up into the heavens. At that time, there was this Roman Inquisition, Spanish Inquisition, a very dangerous time, where if you were convicted of heresy, right, where you're bringing something forward that goes against the conventional thinking of the time, you could actually be put to death. It was a very dangerous time. And at this time, we believed the Earth was the center of the universe. Now, Galileo, with his telescope, revealed, oh my gosh, he looked up, did his research, and could see that we are in a solar system revolving around the sun, and a solar system that was not at the center of the universe at all. So, which doesn't sound like such a big deal, right? Sounds like, well, that's very reasonable, except that it wasn't, because the canon, as sacred teachings of science, everything, were that the Earth is the center of the universe. So he was immediately put under house arrest. And they said, recant right away or you will be put to death. So he recanted, wanted to save himself. And others had telescopes that observed the same thing. They said, no, what Galileo shared is true. We are not the center of the universe. So the world was changed very rapidly because of this one man's courage. Now, he was under house arrest to the end of his life. So he paid a very dear price for being the person of courage. Now, okay, here's the thing about Galileo moment. Let's come back to some important things that Cara and I are discussing. We're saying there is no such thing as a separated self. It's a complete fiction. Okay, and if that sounds like far-fetched, please come to the Humanities Team site. Look at our science-based programs with Nassim Haram and Greg Braden, Lynn McTaggart, Bruce Lipton, all of these. Spend some time in the free programs. You will, or just read Popular Mechanics or about the Nobel Prize last year, about Erwin Schrödinger and Albert Einstein and all of their research. You'll see that it, just like Albert Einstein said, the greatest illusion in the world is the illusion of separation. There is no such thing as a separated self. Okay, so where we're living our lives from that basis of separated self, if we go to root cause, we know people feeling separated, lonely, anxiety, depression, disempowered, and of course, microcosm and macrocosm are connected. So, and then look at the outer world. I'm like, global warming, extreme weather, wars, polarity, all these things, of course, because if our inner world is messed up, believing we're a separated self, then the outer world gets messed up. So here's the thing about Galileo moment. There's no one person that'll say, hey, no problem, let me take it for you. I'll carry this thing into the end zone, so to speak, and we'll just change. I'll take care of changing the world myself. There's no Galileo today. Mm-hmm. But today there's only you and me and each person listening and others around the world that are on this conscious journey say this is a fiction. There's no such thing as a separated self. We'll be Galileos together. I'm going to live into this truth that there's a spiritual universe, that there's a source that we're all emanations of. We're all actually delivered from the Most High as a part of the One, as a part of Source or God or the universe. Choose your word. These words are interchangeable. And where we live that way, bam, just as we're discussing here, we're warmed by the light of the divine. Healing comes in. The delicious life comes in. All of these things that we're saying, conscious living is the thing that our generation is finding. The Great Migration is well underway. And then, here's the thing. 8 to 10% of us live this way on the planet. Bam! Now, the sustainable and flourishing Earth surfaces, and our kids and future generations that all of us are so concerned about now, they have a future, right? Kids and future generations have a future, because we could never start wars. We could never just let global warming and extreme weather go on. We could never participate in polarities. Right? That's just not what you do. We all know that. Once we walk through this door of oneness, of diversity and unity, of consciousness, of divinity, we can't do those things. We can't. So that's the Galileo moment. That's the call to action to each of us.
Yeah, you said he was very courageous, and I always love that. This courage from cœur, it comes from living with the heart. And people that live with the heart, they don't think before they jump into that frozen lake and save the baby, right? They don't think before they do it, because that is what happens when we get aligned with our heart. And of course, if everybody starts to live in that alignment, then there are so many Galileo moments that they can't put that many people under house arrest, otherwise the world would no longer function. So I think in this moment, it's good that we all start to use our voice, put thoughts and power of word and do the deeds that we need to do. It reminds me also, I remember when I was younger and somebody told me about the 100th monkey theory, and that at some point it just jumps. It's like, I can't remember the story about the island, but suddenly it's like the 100th monkey. It's like at some point you said 8 to 10% is all we need. And then it is science that at some point it just jumps to the next phase of evolution. It's magical, right?
Yeah, that's it exactly. The 100th monkey is it. That's the jump. That's the 8 to 10%. And you could see this back at the time of the Civil War in the U.S., where you had this period, this year that ended, where during the Civil War, where it was totally appropriate to just own people of color, right? Yeah. And then you had a couple of years pass, and it was like you could never, what a horrible thing slavery was, and emancipation and all of this, where 100th monkey, bam, this is not going to go on. Right? So we're kind of in that moment here right now when we talk about separated self versus part of the one.
Tell us, Steve, a little bit more about you have the streaming service, which you've mentioned, Humanity Stream Plus and Humanities Team. You have such amazing teachers and people leading, Lynn McJaggart, Bruce Lipton, I think Greg Braden, and so many others. I mean, so many others. But you now have a new initiative, Changing Humanity's Future, and 2040 is a big number for you. Like that, you're like, I'm like, I was hoping it was going to be like 2025 actually, but okay, 2040, I'll be patient. All good things, they grow slowly. The oak tree grows slower, right? So we want it to last forever. Talk to us, as we close the show, about the Changing Humanity's Future initiative and what's the vision there? What's different than Humanities Team and the streaming platform?
Okay, so this is part of the Galileo moment. It's called Changing Humanity's Future, and you can go to changinghumanitiesfuture.com, changinghumanitiesfuture.com. It was announced almost 2 years ago by Humanities Team, Neil Donald Walsh, his Conversations with God Foundation, and then many others, Michael Beckwith and Suzanne Giesman and Deborah Poneman, and many of these leaders, Bruce Lipton, have come on in support of it. And Changing Humanity's Future is just that. So we're saying this was a download again. We didn't just make this up. We got the vision and the provision. It was, okay, we're going to make conscious living pervasive worldwide in 2040. So because as we know, we watch like Netflix, one of the biggest programs on Netflix is called Our Planet. It has 4 or 5 segments. The last segment says we're heading straight toward the 6th great mass extinction right now. But fortunately, we can change our mind. We can change the way we live on the earth. We can heal this. But that's what we're heading toward now. So this Changing Humanity's Future initiative is all about detouring and healing that. How? By the simplicity of what I just shared in Galileo moment. It's as simple as stopping this living of separated self. This whole understanding there's a false reality we've been living into of separated self, which hasn't been kind to us. Transactional way of living. There's no there's no love or beauty in that. So we want to leave it anyway. So we just walk into this conscious way of living that we're putting words to here in this program and in our streaming platform, which is. We just last week dropped the price to $300 a year, over 175 master classes and live programs, and we now are translating all new programs in 75 languages. So anywhere on the planet we can watch these programs. We're a nonprofit, so our whole team, what gets them excited? They say, "When can we drop the price again?" That's their. Yeah. When can we drop? Why? Because we're a nonprofit. The whole thing is this North Star, 2040, make conscious living pervasive worldwide. Because imagine the smile on our face with our kids, and future generations, where we say, wow, we brought it back. We healed the extreme weather thing, the war thing, the polarity thing. We've healed these things. Yeah. We went up to the source problem, right, of separated self and healed it. So that's what it's about. Yeah, and if you go to that page, Changing Humanity's Future, there's all kinds of free resources. When you read down the page, there's a hyperlink that says Confirmations of a Conscious Reality. If you click on that, it'll take you into all of the quotes. I only gave you 2 or 3 here on this program. You'll see quotes from scientists and leaders down through the ages, Hippocrates and Plato and 450 BCE, that where they've been saying forever and ever that there's no such thing as a separated self. So you can check that out. There are action items that are free. These are steps you can take, to live a more conscious life. All kinds of free resources on that site.
It is so true what you say. When we will finally look back and say we flipped climate change and we're living in the Garden of Paradise because we all pulled together at that crucial moment. Right? I can't imagine the bliss and the joy and that high vibrational wellness that is going to be going through all of us when we can say to our children that we took responsibility and that we decided to stop the trajectory of where we were going and make a conscious choice for healing humanity. I think it's phenomenal. I thank you so much for your work, Steve, in this world, and also for the work of your amazing team and Neil Donald Walsh and all the great teachers and educators that are with you. And I'm grateful that you're offering your services also to the world as a nonprofit. And for everybody else out there, check out the work. And come back again. We're going to have new episodes of Voice Rising coming very soon. And until then, God bless you, and I wish you all the best.
Endless.